Today I want to answer a question that I get asked quite a lot in real life, which is how I identify different bird calls, how I learned how to do this, what drove it, and what are the tools behind learning. So just to start off for context, I grew up in sort of suburbs in London. There was nature on my doorstep, but I didn't really feel compelled to engage with it. I could tell the difference between maybe a robin and a magpie and a pigeon, but none of the sort of intricacies of all of the different types of bird species and subspecies there are. It always amazed me when I would come across someone who just from what they heard could identify different birds and the trees around you, and it was something that I'd had on my bucket list that it would be a cool thing to learn how to do, but I never really got round to it. So in 2022 is when I had this experience with a bird that people in the sort of bird watching community would call a spark bird, the bird that essentially ignites that passion within you to want to study or spend time with birds. Obviously in 2022 we were pretty much coming out on the other side of the pandemic, where every day, you'd have a daily walk. On one of these walks, I came across this really high-pitched bird song that I'd never really heard before, never noticed before, and so I decided to stop walking and just look up into the trees. And as I was looking up, I saw this tiny, tiny bird flying between the branches, like really quickly, and I knew it wasn't a robin or a blue tit, because I'd seen those before. I decided to go home and, take all the information that I'd observed and put it online. So I was typing in, a really small bird. It was found in a kind of pine tree. It kept flying really rapidly between branches, and it had this really unique sort of greeny, yellowy colour to it. Through my research, I found out that it was a Goldcrest. So the Goldcrest is my spark bird. It's a really beautiful, tiny bird. It's the smallest in the UK. So it's like 8 grams or something. To me, that was just a crazy experience. I'd never seen this bird before. I didn't know that it was out there. And that opened the whole world of, what other birds are out there? What else am I missing? What else, if I was more observant, could I be seeing on a day-to-day basis? So from this point, I was looking up online what tools are out there. So I was kind of doing this alone. I think I had a few people who would give me advice, but mostly I was doing lots of Googling. I found this really cool app called BirdNet, which I installed on my phone immediately, and it meant that I could then go out on walks. When I would come across birdsong that I didn't recognise, I could turn the app on and it would record a section of audio. I think it uses some kind of AI software to interpret what that birdsong is. Then the app comes up with a picture and the name of the species. So the way I taught myself was, as I was walking around, when I heard something I didn't recognise, I would use the BirdNet app, it would tell me what the bird was, and then I would try to listen out for it and recognise, oh yeah, that's what that sounds like, and I would then try and visually identify the bird. I would try and look through it. So then, as you're walking through, you're hearing these birds and you're reinforcing in your head, that's what this sounds like, that's what this looks like. And as you do that over time, you generate this kind of database in your head of sounds and of sort of visual patterns. For me, that's how I learned most of the basics. And obviously now and then there's still moments where I see or hear something that I haven't seen before, and that's really exciting because it means that it could be something maybe more unusual, or it's just another bird that I haven't previously paid attention to. Obviously, being able to recognise these birds around me has meant that I'm much more likely to want to kind of protect them. I've now got bird feeders in my garden. I love watching out for different birds, participating in different kinds of bird watches where you note down what you see. Something that I really want to do is bird ringing, so helping out with collecting bird data, seeing them up close, learning more from a professional about these amazing creatures. So I think the takeaway from my experience, or what I'd like to share with other people, is that you basically just need yourself and your phone, and you can teach yourself how to do this. So if you're keen on recognising different bird species and you want to invest in a bit of kit, I definitely recommend having some binoculars. Being able to visually identify the birds is really helpful, so particularly when birds are hidden away or quite far away, as often you won't be able to get very close to them and you shouldn't get too close. Having these is really helpful. Additionally, having different books. So I've got some different books based on the countries I've gone to, so every time I go to visit a new country now, I will buy the book of their sort of local birds so that I can understand who lives there. and they've either been gifted to me or I've bought them, but they're a really good tool because it means that I can flick through, I can learn more about the bird species. Sometimes they tell you if you've seen a bird with a certain colouring but you're not sure between two species which it could be, it tells you which one it's more likely to be. So if one's really common, one's really rare, it's probably the common one that you've seen, which obviously is helpful when you're starting out and you're not 100% sure. And also I quite like to note down the birds that I have seen, so I will tick off on each page what birds I've come across, as that helps me then know what I should paint at home. Being able to identify these different birds is a really good tool for me because I've obviously got into painting the birds, so I will often go and paint a picture of a bird if I've seen it for the first time as a way of, I guess, documenting what I've seen, what I've been lucky enough to see. And I also am into bird photography, so I will take pictures, and that also helps me to get up close, have reference photos for my paintings, and also to spread the love for these creatures. So I think anyone can get into this. It's really easy to get started, and it's also quite an impressive skill. I love being able to walk around with friends and maybe they ask me what a certain bird is, or I hear something quite special. I'm like, oh, listen out, like, did you hear that? That's what this is. It really impresses people, but honestly, yeah, anyone can get involved. I think everyone should have a go at learning, and good luck on your bird watching, bird listening journey.